Nigerian army repels attack by Boko Haram terrorists in Gudumbali, Borno State.
Ministry of Mines and Steel Development takes steps to address lignite poisoning in Anambra State.
All Progressives Congress APC backs presidency on restructuring debate.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall take a look at the Abuja earth tremors, reactions and updates.
The incidents of earth tremors in Mpape, Maitama, Gwarimpa Estate and other locations in Abuja, the federal capital territory, last Wednesday through Friday sent many residents into panic, as they have never witnessed anything of that magnitude before.
That's right, Kirian, and some residents in the affected areas relocated temporarily to other parts of the city to seek refuge. And the Federal Capital Territory Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, was inundated with distress calls. However, in a swift reaction, the Director General of the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency, Alex Sundubuisi Nwegbu, advised residents that there was no cause for alarm as Nigeria is not situated on the plate boundaries for earthquakes.
Well, that has to be reviewed further, for us to really understand what that information.
As I said last week, I experienced it myself,
okay.
But I didn't panic.
Exactly.
Yes.
Kinsley, the intensity of the vibration and many residents on the edge, put many residents on the edge. Despite the reassurances, we hear more people, especially in Mpape area, have continued to relocate to other places.
You are right, Kirian, and further investigations by the Geological Survey Agency and other regulatory agencies of the Federal Capital Territory have confirmed that the tremors were due to incessant rock blasting with explosives in those areas by construction companies. Now, the authorities also confirmed that the tremors have stabilized.
And also remember, Kinsley, that there were similar tremors in Kaduna in September 2016, Bayelsa and River States, including Abeokuta, all in 2016, just to mention a few. So are there rules guiding exploitation of natural resources in Nigeria? How can relevant regulatory agencies check indiscriminate blasting of rocks in the Federal Capital Territory and, by extension, oil drilling activities in other parts of the country to avert future occurrences?
Very pertinent questions, Kirian. We have assembled geoscientists and officers of relevant government agencies to interrogate this topic on Good Morning Nigeria today. We shall also check on trader money and what's new since our last conversation on the federal government's social intervention program. That's the outlook of Good Morning Nigeria today. We are reaching you, as always, live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We are Africa's largest television network. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and I welcome you to the program. Busy weekend, Kirian, for sports.
Yes, yeah. And I am Kirian Umayo, thanking you for waking up with us this morning and also welcoming you to the show. And of course, in the course of deliberations, we're going to bring you complementary or supplementary program, reports, which will include newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. Now, let's now join our colleague, Bintu Sumonu, for the morning news. Bintu, we've not seen you in a while. Good morning and welcome.
Quite, very busy on other assignments. Thank you, Kinsley and Kirian. Good morning and welcome to the news. Now we begin on security notes. Troops of Sector 3, Operation Lafia Dole, deployed at Gudumbali, Guzamala local government area of Borno State, have foiled an attempted attack by Boko Haram terrorists on their location. The insurgents who came to attack the military base as well as terrorize law-abiding citizens met serious resistance by the troops. The troops also inflicted overwhelming casualty on the terrorists due to superior firepower, while some terrorists fled to the fringes of Lake Chad. Addressing the troops, the commander, Sector 3, Brigadier General Wem Basi, While on the sports assessment visit to Gudumbali, commended the troops and urged them to continue to remain courageous while confronting the insurgents. Members of the public and residents of the area in particular are therefore advised to be vigilant and carry out their legitimate businesses in their communities, as well as report any suspicious movement or activities to the nearest military base. Now, the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development is taking steps to address the lignite poisoning going on in Otolo Nnewi in Anambra State. Minister of States, Mines and Steel Development Abubakar Bawa Buhari stated this in Abuja.
We have a feeling that because of the coal mining that have taken place over the years, somehow either through bushfire or somehow it ignited. We've taken samples and we've taken the samples to our lab in Kaduna. It's only when we know exactly what the problem is and what effect it can have on people that we can really give out solutions. And but for now, we'll advise them not to panic and to move to safer areas, because we cannot really predict what can happen as a result of the incident there.
And going into politics, the All Progressives Congress says the debate on the restructuring trending on social media is an opportunistic ploy by some politicians to politically exploit simplistic public narratives on solutions to Nigeria's problems, not necessarily for its realism and practicability. National Publicity Secretary of the party, Yekini Nabena, therefore advises Nigerians not to succumb to ethnic champions who promote campaigns to break up the country or other unrealistic and unpatriotic proposals in the name of restructuring to resolve Nigeria's problems. In a statement, Nabena says the party is fully in agreement with the well-articulated response of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar on restructuring when he submitted that Nigeria does not need geographical restructuring, but good governance, honest management of public resources, deeper federalism, and clear vision for development. The statement added that sincere efforts towards achieving true federalism are more important than politically exploited populist rhetoric, stressing that true federalism or restructuring will be better achieved under the President Buhari-led APC administration. Now, the Buhari-Osinbajo Mandate Group has urged President Muhammadu Buhari to remain focused on delivering the dividends of democracy as he runs for a second term of office in 2019. The group said this at a rally in Osogbo that was attended by thousands of the president's supporters.
We cannot afford to allow this country to be in the hands of those who will continue to do the thing as usual. I was trying to tell you, you can see now that the second Niger bridge, for the first time in how many years, it took only Buhari.
Now, the APC in Kebbi State has reaffirmed its adoption of President Muhammadu Buhari as its presidential candidate for 2019 elections. The state chairman, Bala Sani Kangiwa, announced this after the party's stakeholders meeting in Birnin Kebbi.
The SEC has discussed, and we finally adopted that we will go for consensus, and where consensus fails, then we will go for indirect election.
But there are two positions that are non-negotiable. That of the president, we have resolved unanimously to support President Muhammadu Buhari. That of the governor, we have resolved unanimously to support Atiku Bagudu. So this is our position.
Still on politics, the option A4 system of primary election has resurfaced again in Nigeria's political arena as the Young Progressive Party, YPP, held its maiden national convention and presidential primary election in Abuja.
The party's philosophy is my philosophy. My philosophy is the party's philosophy.
What you have seen today is a demonstration of the embodiment of democracy that we are displaying to the people of Nigeria.
Away from politics now, the sum of 22.5 million naira has been donated by good-spirited Deltons towards the purchase of nomination and intent forms of APC for Dr. Cairo Ojobo. This was presented to him by the sacked and unpaid Delta Line Workers Union, and I am a member of government volunteer group.
His intention to run for the office of His Excellency, the Governor of Delta State. I task my members. Those of you who have 10 naira, please bring. Those of you that have 1,000, please bring. We're able to gather enough.
We will not want to leave the whole financial burden on him and to avoid the temptation to steal in order to recoup monies already spent.
And that's the news. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll be back with Kinsley and Kieran in a short while.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime. We bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
Win a trip to Dubai in the 2018 Three Crowns Mom of the Year promo. Visit www.femininelounge.com/competition to find out more.
3 Crowns Milk. Healthy moms, happy families.
Kende suffers from indigestion. His twin Taiyi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
Winning in hot and dry conditions is hard. Causes the body to sweat, which attracts germs that are easily passed from one person to another.
What keeps you so cool, man?
Dettol Cool combines Dettol's protection and an invincible icy feel. For super cool confidence, use Dettol Cool.
Dettol soap is now also available for 100 naira only.
Fake news which is shared for malicious purposes is a danger to our peace and security in Nigeria. Misinformation as fake news is a serious threat to our hard-earned democracy and promotes hatred and misunderstanding between our communities. We are all responsible for stopping the spread of fake news in its tracks. So, always check the source and credibility of any news item. Say no to fake news. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information.
Eshima. Mama. I'm out of food. Eshima, thank you, ma.
Amaka, ṣé wọ́n ni? Soap, orí, shea butter.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain. Fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
You are still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Now let's turn to business. Federal government secures $500 million facility for modular refineries in Nigeria. Plus, foreign reserves declined by $2.3 billion in 11 weeks. Details of these and more with Comfort Amodu.
The Bank of Industry has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Export-Import Bank of China for the provision of a $500 million facility towards the establishment of modular refineries in Nigeria. The establishment of the modular refineries is part of the federal government's plan to end importation of petroleum products and to also discourage illegal bunkering activities in the Niger Delta.
So the investment in modular refineries, in oil and gas technologies, must have a technical training capacity. We want to utilize the oil and gas assets we have to ensure that we build an industry that is local and that is self-reliant.
This all collaboration will further enhance this friendship between China and Nigeria.
The Managing Director BIO, Mr. Olukayode Piton, in a statement noted that the facility is expected to stimulate economic growth and drive investments. In addition, he said the facility would be utilized to finance the purchase of equipment and machinery from China by investors and project owners of modular refineries in Nigeria. Meanwhile, there have been growing concern over the steady decline of Nigerians' foreign reserve since the last 3 months, despite the rise in oil prices and accruals from foreign bonds issuance. According to data obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, apart from oil, which accounts for about 80% of Nigerians' foreign reserves, the federal government is also hoping to borrow 849 billion naira from the foreign markets to finance the 1.6 trillion naira budget deficit. Experts have blamed the continuous decline in reserve on the increased dollar supply by the CBN to the foreign exchange market and instability in the nation's securities and exchange markets. And the OTC market ended the week on a positive note, USI up by 2.83%, while NASD USI gained 2.83% week on week. The market closed the week with an increase in market metrics, as the NASD USI increased by 2.83%, closing at 712.76 points as against 693.14 points last Friday. Consequently, total market capitalization appreciated, closing higher at 482.35 billion naira compared to 469.07 billion naira last Friday. Business News and Comfort Amodu.
Thank you very much, Comfort, for the business package. Next for us now, we'll take a look at the front pages of today's newspapers. All right, so it's our newspaper review segment, and our regular is back with us in the studios. Bayo Atebe, pleasure to have you from your prolonged vacation. I hope you had a nice time. You look certainly very well refreshed.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I was on another national assignment. Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
That's so right. You are back now?
Yes, I think so.
Are you sure you're back?
So
all right,
we had the heavenly showers welcome him to the studios this morning at the Federal Capital Territory. It was a very busy weekend, by the way.
And the rains have been very determined. We prayed for rain, and now the rains are here. We seem to be complaining that the rain is too much. I hope we will reciprocate with the bumper harvest.
Bumper harvest, exactly.
I hope so.
All right, we have some newspapers here to review this morning, and we will start with the Daily Sun newspapers. And of course, let me go straight to the main headline this morning on Daily Sun, because I'm sure that also appeared on some other front pages of the newspapers. I have two of them, the Nigerian Pilot and, of course, the Daily Sun. That is on APC malls restructuring with 2 riders. Says federal government to implement El-Rufai panel report. And then the ruling party, PDP, says the APC is playing politics with it. The full text of the story is on page 6. And, of course, on the Nigerian Pilot is also the main headline. It says restructuring, Buhari under pressure, set to implement El-Rufai's committee report. We are working on a practical approach, says the APC spokesman. And the restructuring is not a slogan, NCMP chairman says.
Okay, that story on restructuring is also there on the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper. It's the second lead story right at the foot of the front page of the Daily Independent. And the headline comes as follows. It says, we won't succumb to populist restructuring. And that's according to the APC with 2 riders there. Says, that's the APC now, says direct primaries will abolish vote buying, and delegates angry with Oshomole are selfish. That's the Daily Independent newspaper. And that second lead story is same as the second lead story for New Telegraph. Again, right at the foot of the front page, there's a companion piece, actually, along with other stories. It says 2019, Atiku consults Southern and Middle Belt leaders and lists restructuring, unity, economy, and security as priorities. And by the way, Kirian, you have a number of political stories on the front pages of the 2 papers that I have. Very quickly, back to the Daily Independent newspaper. It's on the Electoral Act. You recall last week we were discussing it. The President's Senior Special Assistant gave reasons as to why the President withheld his assent, pointing out clerical and drafting errors in the bill that was passed by the National Assembly. Now, there's an update on that story. It's the lead for Daily Independent. It comes with a kicker. Electoral Act. Presidency begs National Assembly to reconvene and says Buhari not in confrontation with National Assembly over Act. And there, as I said, there are other political stories on the front page of the papers.
But I think the paper that has something entirely different and something that has to do with our conversation this morning is a Fresh Fact. Fresh Fact says Nigeria braces for earthquakes with 3 riders. The frequency of earth tremors across the nation is a sign of an impending danger. Fresh Fact investigation. Now, FCT residents consider sale of properties relocation. I trust Nigerians, you know. And with another rider here, why federal government must fund research. Bayo, I think you should come in here. We've raised a number of, we've also read out a number of headlines from the different newspapers.
Let's start with the political now. There's a hue and cry about restructuring. But restructuring has been brought to the fore because of 2019 election. And there are several dimensions to restructuring. Some talk about geographical restructuring, some talk about physical restructuring, others talk about resource restructuring. In a whole, everybody seems to be concerned about restructuring, but the initiative and the concern is When will it take place? And when will there be the bold initiative, rather than making it just a campaign slogan?
And then the template for it.
Yes. The other concern is the issue about the tremor. Mining activities around Mpape, Abuja has been suspended. In fact, it was based on the directive of Minister of Mines and Steel and Power because of the tremors that were reported around Mpape and the Gwarimpa area. It will be recalled that on September 5, about 5 days ago, it was reported that about 2:30 p.m., there was some movement that was described as tremor. It repeated itself about 5:30, and for about 8 p.m. when it came again, it persisted for about 10 seconds, and people have been alarmed. Experts say Nigeria geographically is not in an earthquake zone, but tremors are minor earthquakes. When they are very heavy and goes beyond about 4.5 on the Richter scale, then they are very, very, very heavy. And those occur where there are serious faults at airline, particularly in the Atlantic and the Pacific lithosphere. However, government has acquired geoscientific equipment and investigations are being carried on. Historically, there have been reports about earth tremors. There was once a report in Ijebu-Ode. There was another somewhere in Gembu. And in fact, in 1984, there was a report about tremor at Ibadan. Tremors are just low-intensity shaking in the lithosphere. And actually, there should be no cause for alarm. And that is why the minister has taken it upon himself that it should be investigated so that citizens around Mpape can sleep with their 2 eyes closed.
You know, I think part of the reason for Nigerians to really panic, is the fact that many parts of this country have been mined. Over time, especially, for instance, Enugu and all those areas that we had coal, plateau, we had tin, they have been mined for a long time. And the blasting of rocks, so again, enhances the possibility of having more movement underneath. Yeah,
and even in Abuja area, there's a lot of quarrying activities going on. Abuja is surrounded by rocks, and a lot of quarrying activities is going on, for which is the byproduct for most of the construction. So all those are not some of the possible consequences. But to put everybody's mind at rest, that is why the minister has directed a thorough investigation.
And you have that similar experience, of course, around the greater Johannesburg area on account of the mining activities. Now, let's return to the other stories. New Telegraph, above the nameplate of the paper, NAMA to shut airports over 4 billion naira debt, and airlines to divert flights. And then below the nameplate, you have other headlines. 2019, I'm not against e-voting and card readers. That's according to President Buhari. Details on page 3. Fowler, that's Babatunde Fowler, who is chairman of FIRS, says the FIRS will go after billionaire tax defaulters. Page 32. Kogi uncovers 4.3 billion naira pension fraud. That's page 10. Senator Dariye buys APC nomination form from prison. Details on page 3. He's serving a 14-year jail term, and one of his legislative aides is said to have purchased the form and submitted it on the 7th. Details of that story can be found on page 7. Again, Senator Dariye buys APC nomination form from prison. Lead story says governors move against senators. Amosun, Okorocha, Ajimobi, Gaidam, Al-Makura, Ahmed, Yari, Shetima fight for senatorial seats. APC lawmakers maul defection to PDP, ADC, APGA, and 19 states defy Oshomole, opt for indirect primaries. Ikpeazu Orji, free to join APC, says Abia chair. Now, the headline of the governors moving against some of the senators, that's their interest in having a new national job or national assignment after their gubernatorial tenure expires. That's what we are beginning to see in the ahead of 2019. That's the lead story for the New Telegraph.
Yeah, politically, people have tended to say that the Senate is now becoming the retirement chamber for governors. And therefore, when governors have finished their 2 terms, the tendency is that they want to head for the Senate next. And those who are there as senators and the potential ones are also not letting off. And that's why you have those contention. But meanwhile, the newspaper are speculating that the National Assembly may be cutting short its long recess. This will enable it to consider some of the issues, particularly related to the budget of INEC. You recollect that the budget of INEC is quite crucial to the 2019 election. Also, there are also speculations, particularly the nation speculate that the special session of the two chambers are likely to come on because they are going to consider the issues of the electronic amendment bill and to consider electoral amendment bill particularly as has been returned by the president. The Electoral Act was first turned into the president in February, and it had been returned at least by the third time now. The last time was on the 26th of July, and for which it was said that there are clerical and other errors in it. The fear now is that because of political development, the All Progressive Congress are holding their governorship primaries on 25th of September, senatorial primaries 27th, House of Reps 29th, and also the People's Democratic Party are also hoping to hold their own primaries on 6th of October. If that is the case, it means then that the date of resumption of the National Assembly may have to be brought forward because of these exigencies.
Look, I'd to speak on FIRS to commence audit of billionaire.
Yes, in fact,
I'm sorry, gentlemen. Just before we get to the tax issue, the resumption of the National Assembly, over the weekend, there were various reports indicating that that resumption is unlikely because just next week it's the commencement of the primaries, and that they could only resume sometime in this first or second week of October.
Okay. So all there are there in the ambit of speculation,
yes, that's right.
Political permutations.
All right.
But talking about the FIRS,
yes.
6,772 tax defaulters who have in their accounts sums of between 1 billion to 5 billion have been found to have evaded tax. And the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue has declared that there's going to be what is described as substitution of the accounts. And what does that mean? It means that they are making it mandatory for the banks to monitor those who have accounts where sums of 1 billion and above are there, and to monitor them to ensure that if they have not been paying taxes, then something has to be done about it. The Federal Inland Revenue Services is to have these defaulters who failed to pay their tax, the tax window opened in 2016, as well as take advantage of the VASE. Remember the voluntary account,
voluntary assets and income declaration.
Declaration that ended in,
yes. That's VASE. But that's the snag there. If assuming a person has $1 billion in his or her account, chances are that part of it will be in a fixed account, in a fixed deposit, which earns interest. Do the banks remit to the FIRS the 10% withholding tax on that account?
But the banks will not remit without permission from the owner of the account.
They don't need the banks do not, it's a withholding tax.
It's a withholding tax, it has to be remitted.
Let's go to the editorials.
All right, now let's take a look at our editorial this morning, and it's from the Nigerian Tribune, and it's at page 13. And the title, of course, on the subject matter speak for themselves. The ban on coach Salisu Yusuf. Last Wednesday, the Nigerian Football Federation banned Super Eagles chief coach Salisu Yusuf from all football-related activities for 1 year. And this followed the adoption of a report by the Committee on Ethics and Fair Play, which considered his complaint and the coach's defense in a video documentary in which he was seen accepting 1,000 naira bribe from an undercover reporter.
That's indeed not a good story. And
well, he has been indicted. He has been banned for a year, and he is to pay a fine of $5,000. However, he is subject to appeal. He can also appeal. But the chief coach had already clarified that the players for which that $1,000 given to him were expected to have been an inducement to include in the team were already in the team. Therefore, that $1,000 given to him didn't make any difference. But be that as it may, there has been insinuation and suspicion that all is not well about the basis for selection of players to represent our nation. That is a matter that has to be addressed.
Serena Williams lost yesterday to Osaka.
That was on Saturday.
On Saturday.
And it was a tempestuous final.
Exactly. And her conduct, of course, with the umpire, her response to the umpire when she was warned of taking instructions from her coach, you know, really.
Well, she said she wasn't taking instructions.
She denied that.
She denied that.
But the man said he did.
The man existed.
You know, when she said she was going to get in touch with him to find out that she wasn't even looking in her direction.
But sadly, later on, she resorted to verbal abuse, and which led to a second punishment. Okay. But in all, the lady that was Naomi Osaka was composed, and she is a deserved winner.
And that was what gave her the game.
Yeah, and well, of course, we're going to wrap this up now straight away because this is not the sports segment. Last night, of course, Novak Djokovic won his 14th Grand Slam title, beating Juan Martin Del Potro in straight sets. Yeah. And by the way, Naomi Osaka, she's said to be Japanese. Her father is from Haiti, and her mother is from Japan. And she was, of course, raised in the U.S. 3 years after she left Japan. All right, so that's the much we can take. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we have two topics for discussion. Matters arising, that's to say the update on the Abuja tremors. And again, trader money. If you're a trader, sit back and watch.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
To the outer framers, the hat tippers, the fringe goers, you don't need to hide anymore. Try Dettol Even Tone. It cleans and helps to reduce the appearance of blemishes caused by oil, dirt, and germs, giving your skin a healthy feel for an even better you. Dettol, be 100% sure.
Dettol soap is now also available for 100 Naira only.
For years, the NTA has been promoting science, technology, arts and crafts under the tagged name National Children's Expo. We are set with another edition as we gather children around Nigeria. Junior category ages 6 to 12 and senior category ages 13 to 18. The theme for Expo 2018, achieving self-sufficiency in agriculture, meeting the challenges of security and exposition of alternative energy as pathways to national development. Date, October 21st to 25th, 2018. Venue, NTA Headquarters Arena, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. We are set to celebrate the best of innovation across the country. For more information, please call the following numbers. NTA ETV, promoting learning.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the daring and invincible Louis the Mosquito. Responsible for 200 malaria cases all on its own. Is there anything that can kill Louis?
Morning!
Presenting Mortise Power Guard. Its powerful formula kills malaria mosquitoes fast. So, get Mortise Power Guard.
Madam. Brought us as usual.
As usual.
You
have no problem.
for the three put
You are welcome, sir.
as usual, yeah?
Welcome, sir. You take that one.
Yeah.
Take that one. You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have? You don't have?
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Mom to come to chocolate rice made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
And how they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
This is Good Morning Nigeria, in case you're just joining us. Now, to set the tone for the first leg of our conversation on Abuja earth tremors, reactions and updates, let's take this background report by Mayor Ogidi.
There were many calls to NTA News around 9 p.m. on Wednesday, 5th of September 2018. One of the distressed callers was Dr. Osiobu, who complained of underground vibration.
The Pape area actually seemed to have felt it a lot more than we did, and I'm told that they were actually evacuating.
Pape, the supposed flashpoint of the earth tremor.
The ground has been shaking seriously, especially in the night.
And when he's doing it, the wall, even the walls, some be removing from up. He wakes many people from bed.
Experts in such matters, however, explain.
Basically, earthquakes are ground movements responding to accumulation of stress. And when the stress becomes much higher than the strength of the rock, it ruptures. And that process of rupturing sends waves along the earth crust. And that is what results in the vibration, which we call earth tremor. So, which means technically, it's an earth tremor of relatively low intensity.
It's very important that we have the facts so that we don't wait until a disaster is on our hands.
In Pape, an affected area, the beehive of activities at the roadside markets and other economic engagements give some assurances that all is well.
The thing have stopped, so we didn't express such thing again.
Till now, never hear any noise. I pray I make it not happen again.
It is a cheering news, but a directive was issued by the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development.
We are doing our investigations. There's a need for all activities as regards quarrying activities and other mining-related activities to be suspended.
Of course, we received message yesterday to suspend all the blasting activities, and we comply immediately for the message.
The Minister of Mines and Steel Development told NTA News that before the Pape incident, the federal government has put in place measures to check geohazards in the country.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor Ogidi, for that background. Incidentally, at least one of the persons you interviewed in that background is right here with us in the studios, and he is Mr. Alex Undubuisi Uwegbu, Director General of the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency. He's had a very busy time in the past few days since the tremors registered on the national consciousness. Mr. Uwegbu, DG, Geological Survey Agency, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you very much. My pleasure.
Also here with us in the studios is Engineer Aisha Kau Gombe. She's a Development Control Consultant on Structural Integrity. Thank you for being with us, Engineer Gombe.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, Dr. Kinsley, we have Abbas Idris, Director General, FCT Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. It's a pleasure to have you, Abbas Idris.
Thank you for having me.
And in our Kaduna studio to join us in this conversation is Dr. Taveshima Najime, Head of Department of Geology, ABU Zaria, and Chairman, Kaduna Chapter, Nigerian Mining and Geoscience Society. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you with us on the program. Let's begin with the DG of the Geological Survey Agency. Of course, the major impact of the tremors got felt on Wednesday and to a lesser extent on Thursday and Friday. Since then, what has happened?
Well, I think basically the most important thing is to allay the fears of the citizens or the inhabitants of the area. Because what you don't really understand gets overly exaggerated in terms of its impact. So what we did basically was to engage in some advocacy as to what we should do under the prevailing circumstance. Because even as at yesterday, we had calls that they still felt the tremors. So we had to take a trip back to Katampe, sorry, Maitama and Mbappe, yes, to allay them the fears that, yes, the 8 tremors, it's a very rare occurrence in this part of the world, unlike where we have in Japan and all these other places. But because we are not situated in these seismically very active zones, we don't have much to worry. All we have to do is to take some basic precautions, like leaving the house, not getting close to the hilly areas where we could have rockfalls and damage structures and lives as well. So right now we are continuing with the advocacy while actually we are doing the technical aspect of finding exactly what triggered the earthquake or the earth tremor.
So, to be honest with you, we have had this kind of a situation in other parts of the country. Absolutely. If I recall vividly that we've had that in Abuja, we've had that in Kaduna, we've had that in Plateau, and in so many communities, and this occurred in 2016. And if I'm also recall, growing up as a child in Enugu then, we had such in a place called Ogo, local government area. And just about 4 months ago, we had a landslide in one of the Udi Hills. So now, if Nigeria is not situated in a seismically, active zone, what are the causes? Because it's coming repeatedly. What, in your opinion, your professional opinion, that is that induces such tremors?
Yeah, I think basically there are, I could say, several factors that progressively are cumulative in nature in terms of what could trigger an earthquake. First of all, we could have a teleseismic effect. That's the earthquake, major earthquakes that occurs in different parts of the world could have its effect in a place like Nigeria. We also have fracture systems in Nigeria that are susceptible to this kind of tremor. Also, there are anthropogenic factors like construction, indiscriminate blasting, dams. Heavy dams could give rise to tremors. And as well, torrential rainfalls could lubricate fracture systems that could now give way, as you just mentioned in Ogo. That was exactly the case because I was personally there to actually conduct research on that. So a couple of factors, individually or cumulatively, could be responsible for tremors.
Well, all right, thank you. But the people of the Niger Delta area, especially where you've had oil exploration activities, have frequently complained of earth tremors on account of the activities of the oil companies.
Yeah, basically, I think extraction creates a kind of vacuum in the substructure. And in order to re-establish equilibrium, there will be subsidence. And that subsidence actually creates the vibration which people feel in the Niger Delta area. I've investigated one of them too, and one has to equally have some seismometers around the Niger Delta for us to record progressively the sequence of the seismicity of the area.
Okay. That's one of the questions I'd like you to answer, because some experts are also of the opinion, that Africa is in the middle of a tectonic plate, and earthquakes, and all the plates, according to the information, are surrounded by expansion zones. Now, how much of a seismic activity exists in Africa, not just Nigeria?
Well, you can only explain this in the context of plate tectonics. The world is made up of different plates that are in relative motion. And such relative motion creates enormous stress, which when it builds up, can lead to the rupturing. And the least seismically active is actually the expansion zone. It's actually the subduction zones that are most seismically active, like you have in the Western United States and Andreas Fault and in Japan. That is why we have frequency of earthquakes that are so devastating and so violent in such area. So in Africa, yes, we have, particularly along the Rift Valley system, we also have such kind of pseudo movement, but it's not to the degree of the ones we have in the subduction zones that create such enormous earthquakes.
But earthquakes are possible, like in Mozambique. Recall that it happened in Mozambique in 2006. And other parts, in fact, as a matter of fact, the Mozambique was about 7.5, as case maybe, and it was felt in Zimbabwe. In fact, it was Zimbabwe. So we are just trying to look at the extent to which this can happen, because from what you have explained, to many, is a possibility.
Yeah.
Because it's a gradual process. It takes years, 50, 70 years, or what have you. But when it comes, of course, it's usually devastating. So,
all right, Kyrian, maybe by the time it will come, some of us will not be around then. All right, okay, well, that's a serious point. We have to, of course, also get prepared for the future generation. Let's go over to our Kaduna Network studios, and let's bring in Dr. Teveshima Najime, who is head of the Department of Geology at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, and also the chair of the Kaduna chapter of the Nigerian Mining and Geoscience Society. We would like you to take your initial salvo in this conversation from a comparative perspective. We know that a couple of years ago, we had some tremors in Kaduna, and the location, those were fairly rural communities where you have the cultivation of ginger. A number of the buildings crumbled. We took that topic on Good Morning Nigeria, spoke with some of the residents, and then, of course, the council chairman and other government officials. What happened? What do we know as to what happened in Kaduna on that occasion? Was it the result of illegal rock blasting, or was it, what happened?
Good morning, Nigerians. Actually, we have 3 earth tremors that took place in Kaduna. The first took place in 2011 in Kaura local government area. And then in 2016, we had 2 of these tremors that took place in Ikara and Kwe local government areas. And we had cause to visit these areas. And just like you said, they are rural areas. There's no much blasting that is taking place there. But we're able to look at the geology of the area, and we're able to identify some faults that were traversing the areas. And then when you now look at the trend of these 3 places, that is Ikara, Kaura, and Kwe, they lie along the same trend, which is almost a north-south, northeast trend. And as I was looking at the trend, if you plot a line, almost north-south, northeast, from Ikara through Kaura and Kwe, you can project it directly to the Federal Capital Territory, which is an indication that something is happening along a certain trend. And I think, for me, for these areas in Kaduna State, we cannot actually talk about blasting activities that may have triggered these tremors. We may not also try to pinpoint it to maybe extraction of water from boreholes or some other military activities or human activities. But I think that what happened in Kaduna State was purely a geological event. And this seems to be associated with some fractures that seems to be traversing these areas. And I think that we have to actually, because we made a submission, when this happened, the Department of Geology, the Department of Physics in ABU's area had cause to visit these areas. National Water Resources Institute, Kaduna, had cause to visit. The Nigerian Geological Research Laboratories in Kaduna and the Ministry of Environment. And then we also had to cooperate with the Center for Geodesy and Geodynamics from Bauchi and NASDRA to be able to find out what may have caused this. And we were able to come up with some kind of preliminary findings that this was happening along a fault zone, and this must have what is triggering the faults, especially in the tremors, especially in Kaduna State. Earth tremors can happen anywhere and at any time. So we have to take precautionary measures and try to do a detailed study to be able to know what is actually happening in Nigeria, rather than saying that we are not in an earthquake-prone zone. Because this has started and has been, over the years, been happening in this country, and I think we have to really take time to look at this and try to have a thorough research to be able to understand what is happening. Unfortunately, I have not visited the site in Abuja. I can only say one or two things about what I know about what happened in Kaduna. But I think that it is high time now that we, as professionals and experts in this field, come together, corroborate, and come up with something that Nigeria will now look at and try to see how they can mitigate the effect of tremors that has come to be with us in Nigeria for the time being.
Let's remain with you for a short while, and I'd like you to make some comments with respect to what you have already submitted. You said that it is a natural geological activity that took place in Kaduna, because of course you noted also that no mining in the areas that may have triggered what happened, as against perhaps what happened in other parts of the country. Now, let's look at the intensity of the Kaduna incident, because walls of structures cracked and the earth in some places really opened up, right? Unlike what happened in Abuja last week. So how would you compare that and what happened? Because in Abuja, no structures cracked and what have you. So are you saying that the intensity of what happened in Kaduna is more than what happened in Abuja, and that is something to really worry about?
Where in Kaduna, we were able to determine that the earthquake, the intensity was between 2.5 to 3.5 on the Richter scale. I don't know what is on the scale for the Abuja tremor, but the effect is actually depending on whether it happens in an urban or a rural area. And it also depends on the strength of the structures that are there. Because, of course, in Abuja, you may have structures that are more consolidated, and compared to what we had in Kwei, where you had a lot of mud houses, and some of them collapsed, and some of them opened up, and then some of them even shifted. So in comparison, the effect of an earthquake depends on the nature of the building and the settlements that you have there. So when we compare that on the Richter scale, we may also have to go to compare that with the effect on the buildings, and that depends on the kind of structures that you have there.
Right, Dr. Thank you very much. We'll come back to Dr. Najima, rather. We'll come back to you presently. But let's again go back. We have two other guests here with us who haven't said anything yet. But just before we dismiss the Director General of the Geological Survey Agency, he has a very busy schedule this morning. He spent some time to be with us. One, I would like you to respond to some of the points raised by Dr. Najima in relation, for instance, to the connection, apparent connection between Kaduna and Umpape. That's one. And second leg of it, if Umpape is the epicenter of the tremor, usually when a tremor occurs, what would be the radius of, if you like, radiation of the impact that you felt, that will be felt? Everybody's talking about Umpape. Maitama is just next door, as it were, and Guaripa is also next door. Does this, therefore, give us some telltale sign as to what is probably afoot?
Okay, thank you very much. If I may start with the structural orientation between Koi and Mpape. Like I said before, we have an aeromagnetic data of the entire country. And we actually conducted what we call the first vertical derivative. This is a process where we analyze the data and find out the structures and possibly the depth and orientation of the structures. And like I explained in my first press interview, there's linearity between the Koi and that of Mbappe. So one can actually deduce the fact that it's the same structural weaknesses that predisposed this area to a tremor, that it's also in play in Koi. So that one is agreed. Then,
I'm sorry, when you say structural, I mean, some persons might have
areas of weakness.
That's to say the geological structure,
yes,
not the physical structure on top.
No, the geological structure. That's right. Just like he mentioned, fault zones are areas of linear weaknesses within the Earth's crust. So they are more susceptible to movement than areas that are fairly consolidated. And of course, if I may use a basic principle, if you add a pebble in water, you see waves radiating in different directions. That is exactly how earthquakes are propagated. The level at which these waves extend depends on the weight of the stone. You agree with me that if you drop a heavier stone, it goes through wider radius. Right. That's exactly the way earthquakes. The heavier the intensity or magnitude, the wider the area of coverage. So when it's limited in its coverage, very local or regional trend, then to some extent, the intensity is of a very low level.
Now, what in your opinion, should be a kind of warning signs that, one could perhaps know to be able to take a precautionary measure? Is there any possibility of your agency and other agencies that are connected to, Earth matters, come to an arrangement where we can say, okay, fine, within this period of the year, perhaps 5 years, 10 years, as the case may be, there's a possibility of tremors along the fault lines that we have now noted, of course, going by events that have taken place on that. Is there any way such could happen? And second leg to this question will be, is there need for a deliberative committee, just like Dr. Najima has suggested, that should come together and, of course, think into what can be done?
Well, absolutely. I think the system we have to adopt is multi-sectoral and multi-departmental, because each area has its own area, each institution has its own area of strength, which you can bring to the table when we are now considering what should be done. Definitely, it requires long, medium, and short-term research for us to be able to predict the nature of earthquakes that could happen in a particular place. Because except you systematize the approach of generating data constantly, and that data you are generating will give you a trend. By the time you are noticing an upward swing in the signals that you get regarding either the seismicity or other factors, then you begin to decipher that something is getting wrong. But it requires long-term acquisition of data. We are going to look at seismometers, what the signals are reporting steadily. We also have radon gas emission. We also have even discoloration of water. And oftentimes, even surprisingly, animals could equally tell us what is happening in a particular environment. This could together cumulatively could be used to actually predict or warn people that there could be danger ahead.
Excuse me, on the issue of the animal omens, that's to say, and my question is going to the FCT FEMA Director General. Animal omens, in places where earthquakes have happened or tsunamis, birds are said to take flight, dogs, start behaving in a funny manner, rats get out of their holes. What did you find out from the residents of Mpape? Were there any unusual movements involving animals just before the tremors or in the course of the tremors?
Well, thank you very much. Really, there is nothing like that. We try as much as possible to get such information from them. All they were concerned was the tremor, the experience. And so I don't think there was anything like pest movement there.
So, in other words, the animals didn't give any omens, any signs that something was happening.
Or that we didn't observe the omens.
Perhaps we didn't observe the omens, but that's the DG Weibo again. Now, will a tremor will trigger the kind of animal omens that an earthquake normally would trigger, say of a higher magnitude in some locations?
Well, it depends on the perception level of the animals in question. If it becomes to the threshold where they can actually feel it, they can behave in very odd manner, which if you had noticed the normal trend, you begin to suspect that something is wrong with the way they are now acting. It's all part of what you put together. It doesn't stand on its own. It's all part of what the factors you put together in order to arrive at a particular conclusion.
Before you leave, in a nutshell, do you require some kind of technological know-how to be able to carry out the data collection we mentioned earlier on and other aspects of a scientific approach that are necessary to detect, or rather, detect, a tremor?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the earth and the rocks. So basically, it's within the jurisdiction of the geoscientists. And there are so many aspects of geoscience. We have the seismologists, the geophysicists, the geologists, the paleontologists, all come together in their contributing their different expertise for us to arrive at a conclusion as to what exactly is happening in a particular jurisdiction.
All right, Alex Undobuesu-Nwegbo, Director General, if we still have time to stay with you, if you still have time to stay with us, we'll keep you. But let's bring in Engineer Aisha Kawu-Gombe, who is a structural engineering consultant. Now that we have had the tremors with Mpape and the epicenter, and of course some of the highbrow neighborhoods also being affected, what should be the immediate concern?
Actually, good morning. Actually, what will happen is, first of all, what development control are trying to do is to engage the services of the consultant to go there and access the buildings to check whether there is cracks or deflection. So that's what we are trying to do.
Now, when will you start that? Because it's apparently important now to do that. Because if this is handled from different agencies, then perhaps we'll have information from different perspectives as to know the approach. So which approach now do you intend to do? First, you've told us you're going to go to the houses and see if there are cracks and all that. Is there any other thing you'll be looking out for?
First of all, like I said, what we are trying to do, we want to go there to check. First is visual observation. You have to observe the buildings to see whether there is deflection and cracks. So the measures, what we're trying to do, like after this thing happened last week, and I can tell you that this is not the first issue that we say. Something like this happened in Asokoro, like 4 months ago. I was invited to go and check this, like in Justice West Street, along Asokoro something. So we went there and we saw there's a lot of cracks in this. In fact, as I'm talking to you, the owner of the house is not living there. So what happened is when something like this happens, normally the development control has to engage, but not yet engage. They will engage the services, our services. We are like, they have like 5 companies that are doing structural integrity for them. So what they do is they will give you a letter, they will engage you to go there and see what is really happening. Then before there, you then take your data, then take some samples. If there are no cracks, so there is no need for, and deflection, so there is no need for you to be the same. But when there is cracks and there's a lot of deflection of the descent, and you have to check the soil to see whether there is movement and other descent. So you take your samples and go and, yeah.
So which means this has been happening, say 4 months ago?
Well, yeah, 4 months ago, yeah, I mean, structural integrity tests on buildings, these are things that happen from time to time. In the Lagos area, for instance, I mean, there have been no tremors in Lagos, but the Lagos state government engages consultants to check out the integrity of structures, particularly in some locations. My question is this, that's the Asokoro you mentioned. We have seen in recent years a lot of rock blasting activities, you know, along that axis. That's the Murtala Mohammed Expressway, yes, which is part of the outer ring road in the city on account of the expansion. Now, what kind of precaution ordinarily should be taken or should have been taken, considering, because, I mean, from a layman's perspective, it would appear that each time you needed to expand, you know, you set up the explosives and then bang, and, you know, you will hear the sound from several kilometers away.
Actually, like what happened in Asokoro, first is before any blasting, there should be EIA, that's Environmental Impact Assessment. Yeah, there's EIA, that's Environmental Impact Assessment. So after the descent, like there's no, like what happened in Asokoro, after the descent, like there's a lot of blasting around the area. That's the reason why some of the houses are affected. So before before government or I don't know, the agency that normally give out the license to go and do the blasting, before that we have to check around the area to see whether there are a lot of there's structures or no. Like what is happening in, what happened to the people in Justice Mohammed Lawal West Street. What happened to them is so bad that they have to like, we have to relocate to this thing. And it's one Chinese or I think such a Chinese company that is blasting rocks around the area. So I think it's not good for government to allow such activities to be happening around residential areas.
Built-up locations.
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you. We'll return to you in the course of our conversation this morning. But at this point, we would like to appreciate the contributions of the Director General of the Geological Survey Agency, who actually started this conversation, Alex Ndubisi Mwebu, Director General of the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency. Thank you very much indeed for appearing on our program this morning and making professional contribution. Thank you indeed.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. At this point, Kingsley, let's return to
we'll take a short break.
Kaduna.
We'll go on a break before we go to Kaduna.
No, let's go to Kaduna. Okay. The producer is saying that we should go over to Kaduna now and talk to a man there who happens to be Dr. Najime. Dr. Najime, you've listened to the last contributors on the show this morning. What's your take on some of the issues raised with particular interest in what Madam told us here about what happened in Asokoro area, which was not even announced. And from what she said, it does seem that there is an area there that that companies are blasting rocks.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I want to bring forth the idea of land use planning. I think it is only in Nigeria that we don't take land use planning very seriously. And that is where you have mining activities and residential areas coexisting together. And this is actually a very big problem. And I think at this point we have to realize that land use planning is something that we have to imbibe. And if by any means you think that an area should have priority in mining being sited there, then residential areas shouldn't be sited in that area. And if there are residential areas that are sited there, then there's no way mining activities should be allowed to take place in such areas. And by that extension, if by geology we found out that areas are prone to earth tremors or they have fractures that can cause tremor, we have to plan ahead to make sure that people do not build on such areas. For example, if you now look at the San Andreas Fault in the United States of America, this is a fault that is already identified as a fragile point that is prone to earthquakes and tremors. And for that reason, the area is really marked out, and if at all you have to build there, the integrity and the design of the building has to be done differently than any other area. So by the time we identify some of the areas and be able to do our land use planning, there will be no way we allow mining to coexist with residential areas. And there's no way we allow people to settle in areas that are prone to earthquakes, tremors, and even volcanic activities. So in that case, I want to say that this is something that we have to go back and look at what we have as our data and try to see whether we can move ahead and try to see whether we can actually plan. Because people that have their properties on these areas, once they are destroyed, they are the losers. But if we have scientific advice that we can give to such people, look, these areas are areas that are prone to flooding, these areas that are prone to earthquakes, then of course we will not allow people to settle or to put their buildings in such areas. I think this is what we have not done, and I think it's a wake-up call for us to go back to our drawing book and ensure that we put in place a land use planning system.
All right, Dr. Najime, thank you very much. Of course, the FCT and others with regard to land use, the officials are not directly here with us to respond to that. But your point is noted. Let's bring in again Abbas Idris, who is the DG of the Emergency Management Agency for the Federal Capital Territory. When your officials went out to Mpape and other locations affected by the earth tremors, what did you find in the first instance, and what steps have you taken ever since?
Well, thank you very much. You see, when we received the distress call, and the whole outcry was that there was shaking around the area. And so some people were really restless, and they consider such as really going to cause havoc at that instance. So what we really embarked on was the sensitization of the people, to calm them down, to tell them that they have nothing to worry about. And they should, some of them had already even evacuated their houses. We asked them to go back, because before we went out, we had to consult some experts to tell us, look, this is so strange. As far as emergency is concerned, it's strange in Nigeria. It's a new phenomenon. And so we need to really get it out from the experts to tell us what is really happening. We made contact with the remote sensing office in Mina, situated at FUT Mina, and to tell us what is happening. Unfortunately, the remote sensing was only taking care of the environment. It's not really taking care of the activities of the earth. So they had to relate with other agencies to really get back to us to tell us that there was no adequate data, but from all indications, it was an earth tremor, and so there was nothing to really collect from the public.
I was wondering, Kyria, you know, over the weekend, we had in circulation on the social media all kinds of photographs. But if you looked at those photographs clearly, you would see that those photographs are from other climes. Even the way the roads are marked, the vehicles, the way they are driving on the left-hand side rather than on the right-hand side, and the number plates and the general environment. But did we see, did your men, the others, find any cracks, say on the road or anywhere else?
Nothing, there was nothing. We went round, we went into all the residences and to find out even if there was any fallen ceiling or crack. There was nothing. And apart from Mpape, even part of new Metama behind the PW, they experienced similar thing. We went to the estate, the waterboard estate. There was nothing, no crack. Up to this moment I'm talking to you, there was no incidence of any crack, any sign whatsoever anywhere. Those ones that are really going around on the media, social media, were just from other countries that they are bringing in.
Now, with the movement of the earth, you and I and many Nigerians know that there's something is actually amiss. And from the explanations we got from the professionals, the geological man and the Dr. Najima there in Kaduna. Now, honestly, how prepared are you? You know, yours is emergency and emergency agency. Life-saving apparatus of your establishment or your department, as case may be. How prepared are you in case of any eventuality with respect to facilities and, you know, people who are ready to be called upon in emergency situations? How prepared are you?
You see, emergency response is a case of collaborations. You have to bring in all the experts in different fields because you cannot be everywhere and with all the necessary equipment. But in the case of earthquake, it is not something that you can be able to have preparation ahead of it. Like, for instance, climatical and environmental disasters, you will have the pre, during, and after. But in the case of climatology, in the case of geological disasters, it is very difficult because it only strikes. There are some tremors that can occur without really showing shaking. It's only the equipment that can detect that there was a tremor elsewhere. So it is really not something that you can say like the geological survey to tell us that there's going to be earthquake. It's very difficult. Like now we have the NISA telling us that there is possibility of flood, and NIMED telling us that there is possibility of much rainfall and so on and so forth. Geological survey would not be able to say that there is going to be an earthquake and so, except if we have the sophisticated equipment that the developed countries like Japan, who are really detecting the minor incidences of tremors to be able to alert the public. So the early warning system in earthquake is a very rare. All we need to do as response agencies is to stay battle ready and then develop the response plan. Because at the moment, like I said, it is a new phenomenon in Nigeria. So we need to all together come together and then develop an emergency response plan for earthquake. Evacuation is the most easiest thing that we always have to. In developed countries, when you visited, you will see that they have evacuation centers. And the moment they are predicting earthquake, they will ask people to quietly move to the evacuation centers. At this moment, we don't have evacuation centers.
Okay, that's the point to note, Abbas Idris. Let's bring in again Engineer Aisha Gombe. Now, the earth is constantly in motion. And structural engineers, when they are designing their buildings, are said to also factor this in, except where, of course, the seismic movements are of such intensity and gravity as to warrant special designs. From what we knew ordinarily of, for instance, the geological composition of the Federal Capital Territory area, would you say that designs, I'm not saying that you have had the opportunity of studying the designs that they have, did the designs factor in the likely occurrence of a tremor of this low-scale magnitude?
No, actually, like he said, this is a new thing for us. Last year, we are having some discussions with the Director of Development Control. Somebody was advising that we should put something like this, the issue of this tremor and other this, we should put it into our design, like the way Japan are doing. Most of their foundation, even if there is earthquake or something, you find out that the foundation can withstand the earthquake. But in Nigeria, we don't do that. So it's something, is a new thing that we want to start doing. It's a new thing to us.
Well, I don't know. Is there a comparison between this, that's to say planning or designing for a tremor, and then also designing for a swampy location where you have a so-called raft foundation?
Yeah, there is. First is where you have like this tremor, like I said, is a new thing to us. So it's something like maybe if there is earthquake and other this, you design a foundation in such a way that it will be shaky. Even if the foundation is shaking, or even if the building is this, there will not be cracks and other this. While in swampy areas where we have the raft foundation and other this, where it's when the soil is bad, or maybe if you want to do your construction inside water, that's where you need the raft foundation or something. But it depends on the soil type, something. And what is happening is in Nigeria, more especially in Abuja, this is our federal capital territory. And this is where we have all the professionals. So most of the time is the people that want to do the construction, like let me say the client or something, they don't want, if you tell them that, okay, you need to do soil tests, you need to do this before your construction and all that, they will feel that there's no need for them to do that. And actually, if you look at the cost of doing the soil test and doing the right thing, it's not up to like 2 or 3% of the total amount of the money you want to do the construction. For example, if this thing is like worth 500 million, you are not going to spend like, you are not going to spend 1 million naira for you to do the right thing, to carry out the soil test, to carry out the soil tests and other things. So most of the people, they don't want to do this, they don't want to do that, and we have a lot of people that are compromising. Like maybe they will tell you that this is a waterways or something, and somebody, after getting approval for construction of a maybe like plaza or something, then at the back they want to go and do a BQ or maybe residential area or something, like what happened last week in Kadu. The owner, there's one in Utako. The man got approval for the construction of a mall, which without approval. So in 2016, some consultant went there and did a structural integrity and asked him to introduce a beam, which he refused to do that. And apart from that, he went to the back of the descent and construct like 2-story building, something like a BQ. And they asked him, so last week or something, Development Control sent him a notice to remove the structure at the back. So he was like, why are they asking him to do that and all that distance? So people don't want to.
Right, the law will take its course. Engineer Aisha Kawu, and then, of course, our other guests, we have a number of reactions that have come in. But there's something that I find very curious about structural integrity with respect to Abuja city itself. And I'm sure, Kieran, you will have noticed this. When you go around, in virtually most of the built-up areas in Abuja, you would find that the lower floor, I don't know what's called technically, but it's like it absorbs water. And then the paint, starts flaking off, even the plastering starts flaking off, and now you find the introduction of the so-called tarpaulin, to cover it. What is it, the soil type of Abuja? Does it tell us something that is, coming up from underneath with regard to the structures you have here in the FCT?
No, actually, the moisture content in Abuja is high. That's the water. The moisture content of the water in Abuja is high. That's why we are always advising this to carry out soil tests. When you know that during the test and when you know that the moisture content of this is high, what you do, there's a lot of things that you will do to prevent that dampness and other this thing. But people don't do that.
Does it have is it salty? Is it a salty content too?
No, the water is high. The water level is high. That's why we are having, it's because of the soil of
how would you explain that geologically? Maybe we'll go to Kaduna. Kaduna, Dr. Najime, speak to this dampness and the soil moisture in the Abuja city itself, which is part of Nigeria's federal capital territory. Well, it's up here, and it's if you're looking at, if you're trying to get the trigonometric station to tell you the location, it is several meters above mid-sea level. Whereas, say, in parts of Lagos, what will happen? You don't have this phenomenon of a dampness around the lower ends of a structure.
Well, I think that the Federal Capital Territory is sitting on the basement complex. And in some places, the basement complex is shallow. And because it is shallow, the water level tends to be very close to the surface. And apart from that, you have the problem of drainages. When you don't have a well-drained area, the drainage is not good, then you have the problem of this kind of thing that she's talking about. The water level is very close to the surface, and once you do this kind of structure, you have this kind of problem taking place. I think that is what is actually causing some of the dampness in the Federal Capital Territory.
I have one more question for you, but not now. Let's take tweets now, because Nigerians are beginning to respond to this conversation. After that, we'll return to you for that particular question. Principally, I have here Mike Ayakwo. He says, Abuja earth tremors is a natural disaster being also witnessed in other parts of the world. What is important in this regard is ability of relevant agencies to ascertain and rightly forecast time for occurrence to prevent human casualties. We must be proactive.
Well, Kieran, let's just ascertain that fact again. There can be no direct forecast or correct or accurate forecast of earthquakes. One of the areas most prone to earthquakes, California, for instance, they say they are waiting for the big one, and nobody knows when it's going to happen. The last big one happened, relatively big one happened in 1989. And nobody knows when next one is going to occur. Victor Ohioswama has this tweet. It says the reasons given for the tremors, that's to say in Abuja, including the use of explosives as mining sites, indicate a failure of regulation by the authorities in carrying out their functions. They should check illegal mining before lives and properties are lost to earthquakes.
Now, Dele Jack Solomon, what is the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development and other sister agencies doing about the activities of illegal miners in Nigeria? Because there is need to check the indiscriminate blasting of rocks by companies or individuals without any guidance and regulations.
Now, this is from Prince. It says that the earth tremor woke me up after 6 a.m. on the 8th of September. I felt vibrations and heard the sounds in Wuse too, although I didn't feel it the next day.
Okay, now DW Nigeria, are our builders or buildings designed to withstand such tremors?
And Law Alpha say the Abuja tremor is a strong signal for all and sundry to wake up from their slumber and ponder on how deep the earth has been desecrated. We must regulate activities that desecrate our environment.
Now, Dele Jack Solomon, regulatory agencies should come up with rules and regulations that will prevent people from indiscriminate blasting of rocks in order to preserve the environment as well as save lives and property of Nigerians from natural disasters.
Amogbalahon tweets, if there's anything Nigeria has enjoyed as a country over the years, is the notion that a country is not susceptible to natural disasters. But with the Abuja tremor, it's a sign that government at various levels should sit up and take preemptive action. Otherwise, excavation activities in the country might get to a dangerous trend.
And Festus Akimbe, although earth tremor is all part of the world, we live in Abuja. Earth tremor is worrisome. To prevent an earthquake that will be devastating in future, the relevant government agencies must look into what caused the tremor and do something about it urgently.
All right, that's the most that we can take. We have a last one. They're talking about climate change, but just to get the closing thoughts of our guests, Kieran.
Yes,
I have a question for. Yeah, I would like him to take this question along with that. If we have seen a tremor like this, such as we have witnessed, what would be the prognosis? I would like you to see some more tremors, maybe of a lighter magnitude, just as you will have aftershocks from an earthquake.
Well, I think for now, I think we have to be prepared for more tremors. Because if you go back and try to have a profile of what has happened in Nigeria from the southwest to the north central and to the south-south, we have to grasp with the fact that these earth tremors can reoccur at any time. And I think for that reason, we have to be proactive and prepared for such tremors when they can reoccur at any time and in any place. And I think we need to agree not to dispute and just believe that we are safe from earth tremors and even volcanic activities. Because we are very close to the volcanic line, which is called the Cameroon volcanic line, on which Lake Nyons is one of the examples. And this can affect us even if the volcanicity takes place in another region outside our country because of the kind of materials that is being given out into the atmosphere. We can be affected. And even Lake Nyons itself, if it blows out because of volcanic activities, the flooding that can come into Nigeria can affect a lot of communities. So I think we have to take proactive measures. We have to go into international cooperation to be able to mitigate the effect of some of these disasters. For example, we have what we call the worldwide standardized seismograph network, which is operating in so many countries to be able to have predictive and early warning on changes in the seismic activities in the earth, which can forewarn that, yes, we are likely going to have an earth tremor, a volcanic activity, or even an earthquake. And I think for now we have to start looking at it seriously and trying to see how we can mitigate any effect that relates to earth tremors, earthquake, volcanic activity in our own country.
Dajima, we don't have time now, but I'd like you to respond to this as quickly as possible. Now, with respect to the Abuja situation, you have already differentiated what happened in Kaduna and that of Abuja. Now, in Abuja here, the geological structure is rocky, and that is why many construction companies are sourcing raw materials by blasting rocks over time. Now, professionally speaking, are you advising against the blasting of rocks in Abuja, at least to save the FCT from more tremors?
Yeah, for areas in which you have residential areas, there's the need to relocate the blasting and mining of some of those rocks. But that is not to say that the whole of the FCT should be banned from mining. There are areas that are remote from residential areas which mining activities can still go on. And of course, over time, sometimes mining activities can be taking place far away from residential areas, but within a short time, given the nature of the growth of Abuja, residential areas will end up encroaching on areas that blasting is taking place. And I think that is why land use planning is very important, and the enforcement of it is very, very important too. So we cannot do without mining because there's a lot of construction going on in Abuja. That has to continue, and of course blasting has to continue. But those that are close to residential areas, they must be relocated. And of course, we make sure that people do not relocate their residential areas where minings are located far away from residential areas.
All right. Thank you very much indeed for your contribution this morning, all the way from our Kaduna Network Center. Dr. Taveshima Najime, the head of Department of Geology, ABU, Zaria, and chairman, Kaduna chapter of Nigerian Mining and Geoscience Society. Thank you very much indeed. And here in the studio, we'll like to also appreciate Aisha Kaukombe, is an engineer and development control consultant on structural integrity. Also, thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.
And the man from the FCT Emergency Management Agency, Abbas Idris. Thank you.
Thank you
for your contribution.
Thank
you indeed. All right, now we'll be moving to the second leg of our conversation this morning in just a short while.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Hold it! Me! I don't commot my hand from oil bunkering.
General, what you going to yarn? What did the yarn serve? I don't understand though.
Because they spoil our water and our environment. And they cause our people serious harm. Militants said, you know good. Me, I not do again Sam. Because why? Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Marketing and broadcasting requires some degree of specialized knowledge and skills, and it is in recognition of this that the NTA Television College Jos is organizing an intensive 4-week course on modern trends in broadcast media marketing. All participants will be exposed to emerging trends in broadcast media marketing, and it is aimed at equipping participants with new and robust skills in dealing with marketing challenges of modern competition in the broadcast media in Nigeria. Venue, NTA TV College, Rayfield, Jos. Date, 10th September to 5th October 2018. Fee, 100,000 naira per participant. Accommodation inclusive. For more inquiries, contact us on 0806 9809 807 or email us at ntacollege@gmail.com. NTA Television College, training you to be the best you can be.
All right, welcome back. But if you just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria, and we are reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo recently launched the Trader Money Scheme targeted at petty traders and market women in Osun State as well as the Federal Capital Territory. Let's listen to the Vice President's encounter with traders at the Otako market before we get into our second topic for conversation.
This is the scene as Vice President Yemi Osinbajo arrives at the Otako market to inaugurate the Trader Money Scheme. The Vice President informs the market men and women of the good news that the federal government is providing 2 million petty traders in the country with loans without collateral and interest before the end of the year.
Now the small trader, no be big trader, I don't see some big trader. Now small trader, we won't give money.
Vice President Osinbajo says government is interested in assisting small business owners on their trade, advising them to make good use of the money.
So for now, we'll give 10,000. If you pay back in 6 months, then In fact, you can pay back before 6 months. Then you get 15. If you pay back, you get 20. We want to encourage traders, petty, so that they will have money, enough money to do their business, enough money to sell.
Similar scheme known as Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program is also in place for business owners who can draw from 100,000 naira to 120,000 naira. The scheme is part of the social investment program of the Buhari administration.
Everybody, every one of us can benefit from this thing. The president himself has said that he wants to make sure that those who are selling in the markets, those who are selling small items, small things, the person where they sell pepper, the one where they sell snail, the one where they sell sugar cane, the one where they sell tomato. Now those kind of people, we won't give the money.
Trader Money has been launched in Lagos, Kano, Katsina, Abia, and Osun states, and would be extended to traders in all the states.
We thank you for staying with us up to this moment. And now joining us in the studio now to talk about Trader Money is Uzoma Nwaba, Chief Operating Officer, Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program. You're welcome to this segment of the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, the Government Enterprise and the Empowerment Program, GEEP, comprises of three loan products, Market Money, Farmer, and now Trader Money. Give us a bit of a progress report in all of this.
Sure. So in 2016, the President Muhammadu Buhari administration launched an ambitious social intervention program that consists of a number of schemes. You know of the Empower program, the school feeding program, the conditional cash transfer, and GEEP, which you just talked about. And GEEP is particularly for the people who are financially vulnerable but are in commercial activity. So think of your traders, artisans, enterprising youth, farmers. And so the scheme is to provide capital to them to grow their businesses. Remember that these people are estimated at about 23 million Nigerians who are into some kind of commercial activity at that level. But also the amount of bank loans, your traditional banking loans that have gone to this segment is at 0.4%, less than 1%. So because these groups of people are not interested, in quotes, to the traditional lenders, they don't have collaterals, most of them are not existing in the banking records, they don't have a financial history that can be tracked, so they just go about continuing to feed, go from day to day, just eking out a living with very little capital. So the purpose of this project is to go to these demographics and give them the empowerment through capital to grow their businesses. And we started off in 2016 with a scheme called Market Money. And Market Money is targeted at the more structured traders and artisans in their market organizations. You're required to have a BVN because we have to uniquely identify every single beneficiary. And you're also required to be a part of a market association. We have an agent network of about 4,000 people who have been enumerating these beneficiaries, and all that data comes to the Bank of Industry that is overseeing this scheme, and then based on that, the loans are disbursed. Now from then, we went ahead to Farmer Money, which is a larger loan scheme that is given to farmers because we have this administration, and I think Nigeria needs a big thrust in the agricultural sector. So we found farming cooperatives, people who are into large-scale or medium-scale agriculture, but particularly in farming clusters, and we're giving them loans of 300,000 naira each, again, requiring BVN and ensuring that you're in a cooperative because, again, it's important that we're able to tell you every single person who got this loan. And then of recent, in these 2 years of executing these two projects, we realized that there is a large population that are being excluded from this, and these are the petty traders at the very base of the pyramid. First of all, they don't have bank accounts, typically do not, don't have BVNs, they don't look like the profile of people who walk into any of these institutions, but every day you see them around. Your kiosk owner, Meshai, people selling pepper in the markets, food sellers. And so we had spent this time designing a product that would cater to them. So now Trader Money is a scheme for petty traders. And the goal is to target 2 million of them this year. They are enumerated by our agents in the markets or wherever they do their trade. and then disbursements are given to their mobile wallets, and they can use that mobile wallet and cash it out at an ATM or as an agent, or transfer it to anybody in a bank account. So the goal of this, again, is to reflate the economy from the base, and the testimonials from these beneficiaries are tremendous. For once, they have seen an opportunity where they don't need to know anybody and they have been remembered, and they can invest in their businesses. Now, to be clear, trader money is not a 10,000 naira loan. That is the start. If you get 10,000 and you pay back, you immediately get 15, and then 20, and then 50, and then 100. So it's a graduation, because we want to walk you through this journey of not just financial inclusion, but prosperity. As you grow your trade and we see you grow, you pay your money back, there's no better indicator of somebody who is doing well with their trade. As you pay your money back, it's automatic. You don't even need to see anybody. Once you pay back, dial a short code on your phone, we hit you with a 15,000. Pay it back, dial a short code on your phone, we hit you with 20, 50, and 100.
Now, the rollout states, or rollout locations, if you like, Osun State and the Federal Capital Territory, what has been the experience?
Oh, it's been fantastic. But I would like to clarify something, though. The rollout was not in Osun State at all. Osun State was actually the 6th state we have been to. We have started the program in Lagos State. When I mean started, I mean the public activation of it, because the enumeration has been happening nationwide, and disbursements have also been happening. But every once in a while, we had this plan where we go state by state and just think of it like an awareness of sorts, because these people are so used to not getting this kind of credit that one of the challenges we faced was believability. So an agent walks up to you and says, I want to capture you for a federal government loan. I see you sell yams. I say, no, that's not even possible. So until disbursements start happening and until you have this awareness program going, then people start to believe it. So even we start to pull people in and say, come and make these people believe this.
How many states have been captured, and how far would you go before the end of this year?
Oh, we have agents across the country right now. The activation programs, which are more the awareness events, have happened in now 7 states. We started in Lagos. We've done Lagos. From there we went to Kano. Then we went to Abia. Lagos was August 7th, Kano August 20th, Abia 21st, and subsequent to that, we went to Akwa Ibom, Katsina. Osun was the 6th state. And then we went to Abuja, and we did Lokoja on Saturday. Tomorrow we'll be in Cross River. Subsequent to that.
To make more Nigerians benefit from this, would it not be possible to have a simultaneous approach to it, so that what's happening here today is happening elsewhere in the state? Because, well, I'm looking at a different point of view of the possibility of covering a large number of Nigerians who are in this category.
Absolutely. The disbursements of trader money, I think it's important to separate the disbursements, registration and disbursements from this sort of event. The event is more so, think of it like just a monitoring visit. There's a lot of things we do there. We go and the federal government gives BOI money and says, you need to execute this program. So they use this opportunity to go to these events and they see for themselves, how is it going? They talk to the traders. The vice president is not there all the time. So the events are just running on a predefined schedule, but the actual enumeration and disbursement simultaneously across the country.
About how many beneficiaries do you have on your database now?
So far, we've enumerated up to 600,000 people ready to be disbursed.
What's your target? Number of your target?
2 million.
And there are claims, very briefly, there are claims that in some locations, politics is being introduced. That you need your PVC, you need your party membership card, and so on and so forth. What's your reaction?
I mean, we have heard those claims from many quarters, and what we see is that there are 2 forms of it. There are some that are innocent sort of questions as to could this not be politicized, and obviously there are some that are not innocent. But the truth is that there is no requirement. In fact, no enumerator asks people for their PVCs or their political affiliations. It's not part of the requirement to be a trader money beneficiary. Okay. You just need to be a trader and a Nigerian, and they will see your wares and they will capture you. So, and there is no paper form. So all the forms that are being bandied around with a PVC on it, we have never taken a single application on a piece of paper. All of it are done by agents capturing people with their apps. And those agents are not from the government. It's a private sector-driven enumeration process. Okay. So just separate the politics from the actual event.
All right. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Uzoma Nwaba. Uzoma Nwaba is the Chief Operating Officer, Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program And it's a pleasure having you today.
Thank you very much.
On the program to explain the trader money. Maybe Kingsley would like to become a trader. I don't know. To that level. And
that's obvious.
You have to sell quite some pepper.
Well, that's right. Yeah, but I think that if you look at trends, my colleague Chief Mayo is more qualified for that.
All right, and that's how we conclude this segment of the program. And now let's go to the foreign news.